This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Greetings, church family. I pray this message finds you all well as we're now nearing the end of the month of March and also nearing the end of the Lenten season. I pray that during this time of Lent you've prayed more, that you've spent more time reading and meditating on Scripture, and in doing so, you've built a stronger relationship with God. This coming Sunday is Palm Sunday or Passion Sunday. And our psalm reading for this week comes from Psalm 118, verses 1 and 2 and 19 through 29. Today's devotional, which comes from these verses, was written by the Reverend Stephen Montgomery. His words today remind us of God's love evident by the sacrifice of Christ. He writes, "It is little wonder that Psalm 118 is the most frequently quoted psalm in the New Testament. It starts and ends with a celebration of deliverance. God's steadfast love is the very essence of God's character, which is revealed in acts of liberation and deliverance. Using this term, steadfast love, to describe God, the psalmist was doing something both countercultural and radical. The gods of antiquity were stern, angry, powerful, and fearsome. They were seen as being detached from human life. Whereas today, we often equate God with steadfast love. For the psalmist to describe God in this way was something new. Yet it may still be new to many. Any number of people within the doors of our churches and even more outside those doors were raised with an image of God as an angry, almost mathematical God who weighs each little good deed against each little bad deed on the scale of justice and seems eager to exact retribution. Even more people were raised with the notion of the Old Testament God being a God of wrath and the New Testament God a God of love. Many people live their lives with a remote notion of a God to be feared and with a load of guilt left over from childhood. They miss the point. They miss the good news. 5 times in this one psalm, we are reminded of God's steadfast love, a love that endures forever. This reminder touches our deepest need to know that we are loved and cared for unconditionally. Ernest Hemingway once told the story of a Spanish father who decided to reconcile with his son, who had run away to Madrid and had not been heard from in years. The father took out an ad in a Madrid newspaper. "Paco, meet me at Hotel Montana, noon Tuesday. All is forgiven. Papa." Paco is a common name in Spain, and when the father arrived at the square in front of the hotel at the appointed time, he found 800 young men named Paco waiting for their fathers. Here in the middle of Holy Scripture, we hear the same confirmation over and over. God's steadfast love endures forever. God has delivered God's people from the oppression to freedom. And the only response of the people is to praise, to sing. "Give thanks to the Lord, for the Lord is good. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice. You are my God. I will extol you." Yet the writer does not stop with mere praise. Yes, God has delivered. God's steadfast love endures forever, but the psalmist is still needy. "Save us, we beseech you, O Lord." Praise here is joined with petition in affirming both God's sovereignty and the persistent reality of human need. Deliverance or salvation is not a one-time thing. The Lord has delivered in the past, but the psalmist is assuming the need to be delivered again. Thus, this psalm does not simply have an orientation to the past, but to the future as well. This future is based in the faith that God has not only been God, but will continue to be God. The movement is from gratitude in response to what God has done to the kind of gratitude that is future-oriented. Thankful to God for the blessings of God in what will surely occur. This is a psalm often sung at Passover, the time when the Hebrew people are renewed as they remembered the formative events of the Exodus when God delivered them from slavery to freedom. But they did not remember for the sake of remembering. In remembering, they envisioned another way of life. Remembering challenged the death-filled world in which they found themselves by insisting on giving thanks to God, who is not done with creation. During some construction at a very faithful and active church, an accident occurred. An accident in which one of the staff members was seriously injured. After she was admitted to the hospital, the entire church staff gathered around the communion table. They held hands and they offered prayers on behalf of their sister, their friend, their colleague. The pastor recounted this day. He recounted that he had begun with what he felt was a good prayer, full of the right words, asking that God's will be done and praying for strength. Then a junior member of the staff began to pray. The prayer began with gratitude for waking me up this morning, for the sun that is shining, for the food I was able to eat at breakfast. But then the prayer moved from praise to petition. Not the nice petitions in the pastor's prayer, but hardcore demands on God. God, we expect you to heal our sister, make her well, bring her back to full health. On and on, this junior staff member went, beseeching God to deliver his friend, expecting God to be God. It was then and only then that his praise went from what God had done to what God would do. His prayer, like this psalm, did not look simply to the past, but looked to the future as well. As we come toward Palm Sunday, we hear the crowds echo the psalmist. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. But then we hear Jesus himself echoing that same psalm, reminding the people that the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. You see, God is doing something new yet again, something worthy of praise. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. I pray our good and loving God would continue to bless you all.